These are this afternoon's top stories. Prime Minister Harris extends sympathy to the people of Dominica in the aftermath of Tropical Storm Erica. Puerto Rico braces for inclement weather, and Greece swears in its first female prime minister. Good afternoon and welcome to the ZIZ Midday newscast. Today is Friday, 28th August 2015. I'm Carla Berridge. In national news, St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, has extended a hand of solidarity to colleague Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit in Dominica. News spread across the region on Thursday that Dominica experienced severe mudslides and heavy flooding as a result of Tropical Storm Erica. Prime Minister Harris, in a telephone call and follow-up letter to the Dominican Prime Minister, acknowledged that his people are saddened to learn of the tragedy. He said the people of St. Kitts and Nevis joined the fraternity of Caribbean people in prayer for the people of Dominica. Dr. Harris acknowledged the resilience and faith of Dominicans and expressed hope that those characteristics will see them through this latest challenge. He said the Team Unity administration stands ready to help Dominica return to a state of normalcy. Former head of the public service here, Elvis Newton, will be laid to rest today, Friday. Newton's homegoing service will be held at Wesley Methodist Church on Seaton Street in Bastille from 3 p.m. Newton spent more than 30 years in the civil service, beginning as a teacher at the Newtown Primary School. He later moved to the Ministry of Health, where he worked as an health planner and was later appointed permanent secretary. He was given duties as permanent secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs before being appointed head of the civil service. Newton passed away on Tuesday, 18th August, after prolonged battle with illness. The island of Dominica continues to make headlines as persons in other Caribbean islands seem stunned at the severity of damages caused by Tropical Storm Erica. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, the government has extended a hand of friendship to Dominica's Prime Minister, and opposition leaders are doing the same. Former Prime Minister, now leader of the opposition, Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas, in a letter expressed support and solidarity with the government and people of Dominica, who he said have suffered a disaster of unparalleled magnitude caused by Tropical Storm Erica. He wrote, "Prime Minister, be assured that we are here to assist Dominica to return as quickly as possible to a state of normalcy." Meantime, former Premier of Nevis, now opposition leader there, Honorable Joseph Parry, said through his letter, "It is with great sadness that I reach out to express my extreme sympathy to you and the residents of Dominica who experienced loss of life, injuries, and property damage that occurred as a result of the recent Tropical Storm Erica." He added, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Dominica and all those affected by this tragedy." Regionally, as ZIZ News continues to track the progress of Tropical Storm Erica, we have been in contact with our Puerto Rican affiliate, WAPA-TV. Up to late yesterday, the storm had not yet impacted the country. Guillermo Jose Torres has more.
Currently in the southeastern part of Puerto Rico, specifically in the town of Arroyo where we are located right now, things are pretty much normal, even though this town is in the pathway of what Tropical Storm Erica is expected to make landfall eventually. In terms of rainfall, it's between 4 and 8 inches of rain in some parts of the island, up to 12 in some of the other parts of central Puerto Rico. Earlier, Tropical Storm Erica hit the island of Dominique, and according to local authorities, the effects have been devastating, including 4 people that have perished because of the effects of this tropical storm. That's the information we have currently from Puerto Rico. I'm Guillermo Jose Torres. We go back to the studios.
As we continue to follow the progress in Dominica, ZIZ News' Clint Watson reports that the island has taken a beating from Erica. In fact, officials there are searching for additional people missing and presumed dead. Dominica is now reaching out to international community for any kind of assistance, as early estimates have predicted hundreds of millions of dollars in damages.
We have lost lives, we have lost property, the infrastructure of Dominica has been damaged nationally.
Tropical Storm Erica wreaking havoc in Dominica. It is reported that the island and the Lesser Antilles experienced almost 9 inches of rain in just over 6 hours. That created massive flooding, washing some houses off their foundation and resulting in raging floods downtown. Even more ominous, according to Cecil Joseph, general manager of the government-run Dominica Broadcasting Station, this storm has claimed lives.
We have lost about unconfirmed 6 people. In terms of the river has taken two lives. We have also understood that the infrastructure sometimes they're landslides because of the mountainous part of Dominica, so that has taken some lives itself. And right now, I can say Dominica is shut down. Basically, there is no work.
Joseph says those businesses near the coastline have sustained serious damage as well as the island's infrastructure, so much so that he is appealing to the international community for help.
The road network has been depleted, and by so people are not able to move from one area to the other. So it's very, very, very difficult. And we just call on everybody that is out there who might be hearing my voice, see how they can really give us some level of assistance to help in terms of our infrastructure.
The Bahamas is bracing for the impact of Tropical Storm Erica, and while some Bahamians may not be taking this storm serious because it's still a tropical storm, Joseph, who has experienced Erica, had this advice for Bahamians.
I'm saying to Bahamians that they should never take natural disaster to be a joke. Natural disaster don't always tell you when it is coming and where it is coming to. This time, sometimes for hurricanes, they give us the path. I'm saying to Bahamians, please, I'd appreciate that you do not take this storm as a play game, because in Dominica right now we know what we are suffering. There are over, I am safe to say that there's over $100 million in loss in terms of infrastructure. Not talking about private property, not talking about lives.
It's noteworthy that in the past, some of the most devastating floods that affected the Bahamas came through tropical storms or severe weather systems. Meantime, meteorologists forecast that the Bahamas will begin feeling the effects of Tropical Storm Erica by Friday. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Internationally, Greece's top Supreme Court judge was sworn in on Thursday as a caretaker head of the government, becoming the country's first female prime minister. We get more in this Euronews report.
Greece has its first female prime minister, albeit for 3 weeks. Vasiliki Thanou is the country's top Supreme Court judge and will lead the country to elections expected next month. Her new government will be sworn in later on Friday. The Greek president said he was obliged to appoint a new caretaker administration after failing to get party leaders to form a coalition. Thanou has been described as an anti-austerity advocate who battled against wage cuts imposed on the Greek judiciary to please lenders. Meanwhile, Thursday was Alexis Tsipras' last day in the office after resigning over a bailout rebellion. He has reiterated that his Syriza party would not cooperate with the New Democracy Party and the socialist PASOK, which ruled Greece for decades. Tsipras remains hugely popular and is already leading the polls. Our correspondent says the focus has turned to the next government. Alexis Tsipras has asked for a mandate to form a government by himself. However, initial polls, although it is very early, show that Syriza leads, but without an absolute majority.
There is a boisterous debate raging in the U.S. presidential campaign over immigration, sparked by the leading Republican candidate, Donald Trump, who wants 11 million illegal migrants deported. Meanwhile, Voice of America's Bernard Sushman reports that a group of undocumented college students in New York City who are temporarily protected from deportation put the issue into a different perspective.
The billionaire businessman calls for mass deportations.
When Mexico sends its people, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's rhetoric foments strong feelings on the campaign trail. But on campuses of the City of New York University, known as CUNY, some of the students who could be most at risk are not so concerned.
I just think he's a bully, and life is full of bullies, and the only way to get ahead of them is just to not pay attention. Ignore the bullies.
Tatiana is one of many in a group called CUNY Dreamers, students who came to the U.S. illegally as children, but protected from deportation by President Obama. They say harsh criticism of immigrants is nothing new.
As of recent, yes, there have been some pretty provocative things that have been said by one particular person. And to be honest, it really doesn't affect me.
Hispanic television anchorman Jorge Ramos revealed just how explosive the issue has become on camera.
Sit down. Go ahead. No, you don't. You haven't been called. Go back to Univision.
Trump ejected Ramos. Meanwhile, another Republican presidential candidate, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, has been sharply critical of Trump's deportation plan.
Mr. Trump believes that you can just round people up, and that it's just an easy thing to do because he's a successful guy and you'll just have successful people do it and it'll all work out.
We're coming today.
Dreamer student Francisco Tecaisko just wants the presidential candidates to watch what they do.
A lot of Republicans see undocumented students or immigrants as criminals, and those other negative, all those negative comments, and we just show them like that's not true. There's many students that are good students. We're in college. We're finding a way to go to college.
These students know the next president will not take office for another year and a half, and it's only then they might have to face the prospect of deportation. Bernard Schussman, VOA News, New York.
Taking a look at the weather. Temperature today is recorded at 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Today is expected to be generally partly cloudy to cloudy with a few light showers, while tonight will be fair across St. Kitts and Nevis. As Tropical Storm Erica continues to move further away from the Leeward Islands, slight unstable conditions will continue across the islands. Sunset this evening will be at 5:57 p.m. and sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:28 a.m. That brings us to the end of the ZIZ Mid newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carla Berridge.